Hello, animation nerds, Epic Mickey fans, and viewers of all kinds. I am Paul Westerfield, and welcome to another video in the Epic Mickey legacy. Kind of. The two videos I'm currently working on, my official commentary on the making of A Deep Dark Descent into the twisted ideas and concepts of Epic Mickey 1 and 2, which you can find in the description below, and the video that will be coming out before that, where I take a look at Epic Mickey 3, the canceled Epic Donald, and the canceled Epic Mickey movie. I wanted to do something like this that I've been wanting to do for a long time. For those of you who are familiar with the Epic Mickey series, and those who aren't, the primary antagonist of the first and second film to a much higher degree is the Mad Doctor. But many people don't understand this character's full backstory and what a significant impact he actually left on animation. In what is quite honestly one of the only public domain Mickey Mouse cartoons you will ever find, 1933's Mickey Mouse, the Mad Doctor. This is legitimately one of my favorite animations of all time, and I really just wanted to geek out and talk about how incredible it is with you today, and put in a few draws to how it tied into the Epic Mickey games overall. So with all said, we're going to start up. 3, 2, 1. Sorry, we of course had some technical difficulties because my computer loves screwing with me. We now have it recorded, and I'm going to get started up in 3, 2, 1, click. So something I want to cover right at the beginning is, as you can tell, this is a very, very old Mickey Mouse cartoon. You will see copyright down here, Walt Disney Productions, current on RCA Photophone. Minnie just happens to be here in the title card, and it did something very unique that I don't think title cards did very often back then, where it wasn't just a still image, like it zooms into you to become the feature. Remember, so I'm going to try not to repeat this a lot, but remember in every scene that all of this, every single shot of this is hand drawn. All of these layers had to be put on top of each other on the multiplane and then just run together, and it's incredible to watch. And remember, this is 33. This is nearly 90 years ago, and it looks this good today. Mickey, of course, is still voiced by Walt Disney at this time. And his classic design that you see here was actually, at that time, a redesign, as he had gone from his original Steamboat Willie style design, where he had the slightly sharper pupil-filled eyes instead of the pie eyes that we regard him as having in that time period. So just his proportions had gone a dramatic shift here, and this is one of the first cartoons showing that, giving us the design we are most familiar with. And Pluto, of course, has been abducted by someone. No, really. Yeah. So, interesting thing is that this design, it's pretty obvious who this is, but this figure of the character was originally considered for Epic Mickey, and there is a model of it, but they did not keep that in the final cut, because this is just a cloak, and it does resemble the Shadow Blot and the Phantom Blot, who I talked about in my Epic Mickey video. So this could have been a predecessor for both the design of the Shadow Blot and the monster that they turned him into, which is pretty interesting. And like, you have to animate each of the footprints as they go down. And let's look at this layering. Gorgeous, gorgeous shot. Like the timing, the lighting of it with the lightning. And of course, you see the classic skull head design. This is one of the first inclusions of that. You see that in stuff like Peter Pan all the time. This was the first inclusion of it. Just a gorgeous shot. This looks like something out of like a 1930s Castlevania. We're still dragging him in. Okay, so a great shot here again, great freeze. But something I should explain is that Dr. XXX, back then 3X's was more put on jugs, like for whiskey or moonshine, because it represented alcohol and like you're not supposed to drink that, kids, instead of sexual like it is today. So when you needed an evil sounding name, you just did XXX because that's evil, that's dirty, alcoholic. So that's where that name comes from, because a lot of people get confused by that. And no, like he has a lever over his door. That's how he gets in. It doesn't swing in. He has to pull the lever over, and it of course has a spiked bottom. Come on, you look. It's Castlevania. This is Mickey Mouse's Castlevania, and just again, it flows so nicely. And then now this is how you get into a locked door. Really think about that. In the first minute of this cartoon, Mickey has already almost had a knife and a meat cleaver go through him. In the first minute of this cartoon. You won't be surprised why this is public domain by the end of it, trust me. A classic staple of old cartoons like this, it locks itself so that now he's trapped. The bats here are repeated animation from a different one. Gorgeous shot. Look at that. It's like just you have to animate the background first in this shot, paint the background and make sure it's a flowing background that stretches all the way across. Then you have to animate frame by frame Pluto and the Blot fighting each other, and then the extra layer of all these instruments in the front. That's 2 additional layers of animation on top of the original background. It's an extra detail that isn't necessary but goes a long way, and it's so cool to watch. It's like it stays there in the entire shot and it pans all the way across. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm geeking out about this a lot, but just like really watch this shot in action. In fact, I'm going to slow it down because really watch this shot in action. Remember that all of this is hand drawn. Watch it, watch carefully. That was a 3D effect on par with the first Doom game in 1933, created in hand-drawn animation. Like, really absorb that shot and think about how hard it was to do something like that. And that the extra detail of a block falling down on top of it. He bumps into the wall, then it pans, and he falls down the stairs into that. It's... God, this cartoon is so good. We get the classic shadows, something scarier than it actually is. And then he leapfrogs his way into the dark. We get the classic eye thing. Like just... In the 1930s with animation, if you needed scary, you either did hell or skeletons. Especially with Disney, that's the 2 things you did. If it was in color especially, you did hell. But if you just needed scary, you did a bunch of animated skeletons. And just like, watch what this one has to do. The animators had to try to figure out, how do we make a skeleton with no lips blow out a match? How do you animate that? They just like shriveled it up like he doesn't have teeth and it just turns into lips. And it's just so creative what they get away with in this cartoon with the skeletons. It's amazing. Most of this cartoon is literally not even the Doctor. It's Mickey dealing with a bunch of skeletons that want to kill him for no reason. So now he's got to run out back to here. That one tries to get him, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 4 cats. Just little stuff like that is so fun. Okay, so here's our first look at the Mad Doctor, and I forget who voiced him. I'd have to look that up later. But yes, this is our first version of him, and this is the design that we see in Epic Mickey. In the concept art, which is something we're going to cover in a future episode, in a future video, they had other designs in mind, but they decided to stick with his original design. And he's very much just a typical textbook early 1930s science sci-fi evil mad scientist. He's just got the long black beard and mustache. But he is a pretty twisted one. He's a very interesting but twisted one. Like, I think this is one of the first examples of mad, as in crazy, in a cartoon. And you'll notice that.
And now,
I guess that's what you wanted to see. Okay, two things there. I'm sorry, but okay, two things. So one, of course, you'll notice that when he dances, his mustache creates devil horns in the back with his shadow, which is also something done in the promotional poster. But two is that just one of the last things you want when you're trapped in a mad scientist setting like this one is for them to start doing something creepy or scary. Like, just because the only thing worse than being operated on by a doctor against your will is being operated on by a doctor who doesn't know what he's doing against your will. And this is one that literally just takes the time to go for no reason other than they wanted him to. It's just,
I'm a roaring, tearing wizard. When it comes to
cutting up.
I can grab things.
Again, great movements on him. Just they really knew how to make him more stretchy because he's a bit taller and longer, and really act out everything because you have to communicate a lot of information all at once. And it's rumored that part of why this cartoon is public domain is because just that's supposed to be blood, but it's very minimal. And again, it's a black and white setting that I really don't think that's it, but you'll see why later.
Chicken's gizzard on the
Wishbone of a pup. So basically, he just decided.
And here's the great experiment I'm just about to tackle to find out if
He's going to take Pluto.
crow or cackle.
I love that laugh. But just basically, his whole goal is to take Pluto the dog and that chicken and make a chimera and see what happens. Like, he's literally just doing that because he wants to know what will happen. And that is such a mad scientist thing to do. Just, I'm doing this because I want to experiment, and I don't care if the animals get hurt. It's awesome. And then, if you thought Pluto's rib cage was weird, watch this. Yeah, you gotta watch Pluto's beating heart on top of his cracked, broken rib cage. It's good. I love it. I love this cartoon. And of course, Mickey is looking for him. So he climbs a non-suspicious ladder and gets stuck in that poor just both of them, I feel so sorry for, because like Mickey's literally stuck in its rib cage, and again, that's so scary when you're trying to escape from it, but it's right on top of you. But also, like, that guy was just standing there, and then Mickey got stuck in him. And now, again, I know I say this a lot, but again, hand drawn, frame by frame. Watch this animation right here. He had to put together every single bone in his body, piece by piece, back together, and have a full expression on him the entire time. So he growls like that. I love that shot. You can make some great memes out of that one. I love that shot. It's just like... just it slowly comes out, and you just see the classic eyes, and then pans out, and you get like, the Borg Collective wants you, Mickey Mouse. There's just so much you can do with that shot of just them all standing there casually in the elevator like a bunch of friends, and then he bashes into them, and then they just start throwing their heads at him, and like, no, they do things. It isn't just the heads thrown at him. He rolls over one. One bites him in the ass, and he has to like fight it off. Like they do more than just, oh, they're throwing their heads at him. No, he actually has to interact with them and fight against them, and that's awesome. And then, yeah, he gets a friendly greeting, which he doesn't like, and he deals with it. And then he gets lassoed. And now we have a skeleton spider because this wasn't freaky enough already. Now he just starts dancing around the spiderweb with it. Funny bone. And then watch this, because like, okay, he takes the end of the stair, throws it like a boomerang, knocks the spider over, but the spider turns into a little spider that walks away, and he gets knocked down the stairs by it. Oh. I'm sorry. I know this is probably really dark to some people, but how do we get away with any kids wanting to see this? We cut the shadow in half. That's how it works. And I also love that, like, when he cuts it, the shadow stops moving. He honestly picks up the shadow. The shadow. It's such a dark but awesome and such a funny idea. Yeah, just for very sick, twisted, dark people like myself who love that kind of thing. Like, Pluto is literally hung up by his tail here. So Mickey hears that and he starts running in. Only in cartoons. Well, Mickey gave up. That's the end. Nope, he gets a running start, and congratulations, Mickey! You are now successfully strapped in and prepared to watch Pinocchio 2022. Sorry. But again, like, just you see all the details around this, and like no one is going to notice, but it brings so much more atmosphere to it. And then, like, I love that the belts actually just strap him in by themselves. And he's still fighting for dear life. And he wants to see Pluto. So he just rolls up his sleeves because now he's ready for action. And there's like, that's mad. That's crazy. That's something a mad scientist would only care about. I want him to be clean before I saw him in half. I'll just brush off his stomach for him. Why? I'm mad. And then, okay. You think the shadow scene is dark? Brace yourselves for this. Just, again, another great detail, and you wouldn't see details like this today, is that it's not just a buzzsaw. It's a broken buzzsaw. Look at that. It's running on just a spinning wheel. Belt. It's just, it looks like it's breaking, it's practically cracking apart. So like, even worse than you're about to be sawed in half, you're about to be sawed in half with very bad instruments. So it's gonna be slow and it's gonna hurt a lot. So then just like, but it gets better. Disney, everybody! A giant buzzsaw trying to cut Mickey Mouse in half very slowly, and he has to stretch his stomach apart. Again, like, and just physicality-wise, like, stretching his stomach apart, that's a very Oswald thing. Like, Oswald was known for doing things like taking off his limbs and throwing them like boomerangs, and he would like spin his ears around, which they tie into Epic Mickey. So that's a very Oswald style thing to do. Stretch out his stomach to prolong the inevitable. But then, of course, a really crucial note here is this is another amazing detail, is that it really looks like he tangled himself up in the sheets. Like, when you've had a bad enough dream, you really feel it. And like, just, you're pretty sure he like tangled himself up in the sheets, like he's trapped in there and he can't get out, and he's so scared, and he's just so deep in thought. And he can't get out of it. And I'm sure you've had a dream like that. It's just another amazing detail like that. And also, like, of course, a mosquito or fly buzzing around, and then brilliant animation on just like, there it is. That's the end of you. And then you just fling out of bed. That's your wake up call. That's the moment when you break out in a cold sweat and you wake up and you're panting and you're terrified. Terrified. And then you finally realize it's all a bad dream. And then poor Pluto, who didn't play part in any of this dream, just I love how fast the doghouse instantly gets destroyed. Like it's not enough that he races in like that, but just watch. It immediately cuts from being animated to just a completely different drawing of it part of the bed now. But yeah, look at that. That's just a perfect ending to this. In the last 10 seconds, we established it's a dream, so we can do whatever we want with it. And there's Minnie again, even though she played no part in this. And we never saw the Mad Doctor again. Nope, we never saw from him again. No siree. We never saw him again until Castle of Illusion. And then Epic Mickey. No, that's the Mad Doctor, 1933. It is honestly one of my favorite Mickey cartoons of all time. One of my favorite animations of all time. There's just so many minute details and dark humor throughout it that you just don't see in Disney anymore. And just that is what I wish more of Epic Mickey was, story-wise and writing-wise. Because they did nail it visually, even with my major complaints throughout the last video. And it's just so much fun to look at and really think about, because it just is so impressive how much they got away with in that one, and just how different a time where animation is concerned that was back then. And it's all so much fun to look back on. But with all that being said, what are your thoughts? Are you familiar with this cartoon? Do you think it helped Epic Mickey? Didn't? Is it good animation? Shouldn't be shown? What's your thoughts? Because I'd love to hear your opinion on this amazing cartoon. And with all that being said, I promise I'm going to get to more Epic Mickey soon. I'm just super busy right now. So with all that being said, I'm Paul, and with my Demon Pulk, see you guys next time.